Okay, tonight we are going to try to make a pizza in here while we talk about the history of Halloween. And I'm not talking about ancient history, I'm talking about more recent stuff. So if this sounds good to you, you have hit the right spot. This is Screams for You, and I'm B. So turn down those lights and lock those doors. Here's a scream you can't ignore. So, we all know the ancient history of Halloween, or at least I hope we do by now. So we're going to talk about how it became what it really is today. Well, it really started in the 1920s, and Canada was actually the first country to use the term trick or treat. And that happened in 1927, I believe it said. Right in there. And that is how the term started. So that was really interesting. I didn't know that Canada is really the leaders in how trick-or-treating evolved, which is awesome. But what really led to trick-or-treating in the United States being what it was throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s started back in the 50s. And what was happening was in 1933 was Black Halloween. Have you guys heard of this Black Halloween? There was so much vandalism in big, huge cities that Halloween was almost just banned everywhere in the United States. They weren't even going to really deal with it anymore. They were completely done. But they looked at our friends and neighbors up in Canada and seeing that they were handing out treats. They were doing Halloween parties. They were doing haunted houses and things to keep the children entertained. So why did Black Halloween happen? Well, it happened because the Scottish and the Irish brought over their traditions, and one of them is how we got trick or treat, because pranks would be played constantly. That's where we got the trick part. It was a constant thing. That's what Halloween was about, was big, huge pranks. But this $1 million of damage that they'd done in the 1930s started changing how everyone in the United States started celebrating Halloween. Now, giving out the candy, it was more like parties and stuff back then, and giving out the candy didn't really start until after the war in the 1950s. And this is because sugar became more accessible, so therefore there was more manufacture of candy. How we started the tradition of giving out candy on Halloween. How's it looking? So let's talk about the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It seemed to be the peak for Halloween. And why this is because of all the manufacturing of costumes and advertisements for the candy. It became more of a consumer, that's when it started becoming more of a consumer holiday than just a regular celebration, which I could say that about most of them. All that happening, that is how the 70s and 80s and 90s really became the peak of Halloween, with trick-or-treating, going door to door to get candy, and celebrating in a way that we now celebrate more. Because there has been a change in Halloween. First off, 1/3 of Americans do not celebrate or believe in Halloween. They believe it is an evil tradition that celebrates the devil and witchcraft and all things just horrible. It is something that corrupts our society, is what they believe. So they just don't celebrate, and this is due to a lot of religions like that. So they started coming up with their own celebration, which a lot of them will do harvest or fall festivals. And the big thing now that has been really big since COVID in 2020 is what is going on to help with the death of trick-or-treating. And that would be trunk-or-treating. The trunk-or-treating is you take your children to a parking lot, people have their cars decorated, and they hand out the candy. You still dress up in the costumes, but people don't really go house to house anymore. People believe it's safer for all kinds of reasons. Kids are more managed, kept an eye on. Everybody's all in one place. You're not going to strangers' houses. Ooh, you can't get the pizza sauce open. Where was I? Okay, yeah. So lots more people participate in Halloween this way and trunk or treat nowadays because of COVID. But the thing is that a lot of people are also blaming streaming. People will be at home watching horror movies and having little party get-togethers like that more than going out and doing something more of the way things are going now. But that's just the trick-or-treating. Actually, when it comes to Halloween, the sales and things like that are up higher than they ever have been before. Sales for decorations, sales for candy, and things like that. And even though it's not how we used to do it, it is what is taking over nowadays in our pursuit of what I like to say is new Halloweens. And this is just new ideas. We obviously change throughout time. We have to go with the flow. And although Halloween may not be what it was in the 70s and 80s and 90s, it is something different now. Everybody celebrates differently now. Everybody does something different with their kids. There are so many people in the world that people are making their own traditions, and they're making Halloween what they want it to be instead of what people say it is, evil and all that stuff. It's not that, it's not looked like that as much anymore as it used to be, which is a good thing. I love celebrating in all kinds of different ways, and obviously making fun looking foods. We make sugar cookies and decorate sugar cookies, and we watch horror movies, and we decorate our house, and we decorate outside. We do all kinds of celebrations in our own style and in our own way, and it's making new traditions and helping us go into the new era of Halloween. So what do you think Halloween is going to look like in 10 years even? Is going house to house going to be completely gone? Is nobody going to experience that anymore? Or is it going to come back at some point in time when people care about our children's safety, but we still go house to house? We have a couple of really nice neighborhoods that go all out. It's super decorated. They sit out. It's a great big neighborhood, and we love to have that experience for our kids and not just walking around a parking lot. And when it really comes down to it, they seem to actually like that better also. So we really try to make sure that we do that for them every year so they can experience what trick-or-treating, used to be like back in my day. All right, so I'm gonna turn this up. Recent history, it's how we're changing traditions. It's how we are making history for the future to come in celebrating this holiday. What kind of traditions does your family have for What kind of traditions does your family have for Halloween? Do you do anything new that maybe you didn't do when you were a child? You creating something that can be the future of Halloween? Or does your country or your religion just practice it in a totally different way? Drop it in the comments. Let me know about your Halloween traditions. And don't forget, have a spooky night.